Northtown News Magazine is brought to you in part by eVoter. eVoter is proud to be a sponsor of the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
For the identity of the real Marty Levinson, please stay tuned to the Northtown News Magazine.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that limit.
Hi there, I'm the real Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers here, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Sonny, unfortunately, is not here right now. He had to take care of some family business, so actually we've got the camera set to this particular position. So you'll excuse us, but the conversation will be every bit as interesting. Believe me, and I'll let my important guests do most of the talking. So it'll be really interesting, that's for sure. Dial us up on the web, www.ntnm.org. We've had, in the first 40 days of this year, we had over 10,000 shows watched. Thank you so much. We're up way over 100,000. It keeps climbing all the time. We're real big on community policing, and there's evidence, in part, and that's caps24.org, which is a website run by Sonny Hirsch in his spare time. And spare time, he takes tons of time on that site. You can actually, he's got links directly to the police to report graffiti and stuff there. But you know what? You can find out where all the community policing meetings are in the 24th District, which consists of Rogers Park, West Rogers Park, and part of Edgewater. And we want to let you know that Sundays at the 24th District at the station, which is 6464 North Clark, they're welcoming kids of all ages to join them from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. in the auditorium for peer tutoring, homework help. You can meet new friends there. For further information, call Community Policing at 312-744-6321. And anyway, it's a pleasure right now to introduce you to the Deputy Chief of Area 3 of the Chicago Police Department, Deputy Chief Bruce Rottner. How are you?
Avi, I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you, and thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
We've done so much politics, we've really neglected, even though we always tell people to get involved with CAPS, we've really neglected, and one of the things we really enjoy doing is introducing people to the various officers and the fine men and women who serve them in this area.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I knew political season was over because we've got the old standbys on now. So, yeah.
That's exactly right. You should know I looked at the old shows to see who I used to have on, and that's exactly who I invited.
That's okay. That's okay, Avi.
And I'm really glad political season's over because, frankly, I ran out of Q-tips cleaning my ears from all the political talk. So, you know, it's got to be rough right now. I mean, the whole city's getting cut down. And you've got to do more with less, but you still got to do it.
Yeah, well, you know, budget constraints are not just touching our department, they're touching all city departments, and they're really touching all cities throughout the United States. I mean, we're coming out of a terrible recession, and I think everybody's being asked to do more with less. The police department, which has actually been my home for the last almost 38 years, policemen always step up to the plate. No matter what the situation is, no matter how terrible it may be, policemen, you can always count on them to do the right thing, to do more with less. Our equipment is getting older, but the good news is, our police department is getting younger. When I started in 1972, I think the average age of officers was somewhere around 41, 42 years of age. That's come down considerably. We're getting a lot of officers now who are back in the military. I came out of the Vietnam era. A lot of our officers today have come out of Iraq and Afghanistan, and so we're getting a younger officer on the job today. We're getting a well-disciplined officer on the police department today. So that bodes well. And again, there's only so much money to go around, and we understand that. So, our officers are happy to be able to go out there, go out and beat cars, go out and unmarked cars, and do their jobs and protect the communities that many of them live in now.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think that's great. I mean, you've lived either here or around here for a good chunk of your life.
Yeah, almost my entire life. I mean, we moved into West Rogers Park in 1949. I was 1 year old, and the 6200 block of Rockwell. And I lived there until I got married in 1972, and then my wife and I lived in 2600 on Estes until only a few years ago. So it was a great neighborhood back then. It's still a great neighborhood. And, the demographics have changed, of course, but they've changed all over. And, people think the word change is something bad, and change is not bad. Change is inevitable, and things change. And you just have to be able to, stay ahead of change, and because otherwise it rolls right over you.
One of the things that unfortunately people who are misinformed are saying is that crime is up in the neighborhood. They see new faces. But the statistics, and let me tell you this much, the statistics are, if there's a real crime and it's reported, that's real, nothing gets fudged. You can go on ClearPath and you can see every single one of them. And crime is significantly down, over 5% throughout the district. I don't remember the exact numbers, but that's a significant, if you're talking, you're talking about dozens of people who weren't bothered, that were less than the year before. So just because the faces are different, and that comes from bad information. You should go to your CAPS meeting. I mean, the message boards, the gossips. You want to meet people. Okay, you know what? I'm not a Jewish dating thing. I meet people through message boards. I'm not against message boards. It's just that if you really have the opportunity to really meet a for real police officer that's really patrolling the streets you live on, and participate, and you get to know these people, and they see you on the street. They know you're not they know you're a responsible citizen looking to do well. You're more likely to have contact. You'll find out what's going on. There's so many benefits to this.
There's an old saying that figures don't lie, but liars figure. and that's why I've never been a big one on throwing out numbers. I mean, I could dazzle everybody with statistics and numbers, and my area of responsibility basically goes from Fullerton Avenue to the city limits on the north, and from the lakefront to the river on the west, or Kedzie Avenue, basically, and that takes in 4 police districts, including the 24th Police District. And overall in the area, because I have to have a little more global view now, our crime is down significantly in the area. We had less homicides than we did in 2008, less aggravated batteries or shootings with firearms than we did in 2008. But you have to translate those numbers, as you eloquently said, into people. How many less people are victims, because of, number one, the great work that our police officers did, and number two, the support of the community in helping us achieve our goals. So that combination really helps us achieve those goals. We can't do it alone, and we learned that a long time ago. We can't, it was like Nixon realizing there was a China out there. I mean, for years and years back in the early dating times of policing, we never turned to the community for any kind of help. And then that really turned around after the turbulent 60s, where we discovered the community was there to help us and support us. And that's really has grown up and matured. Community policing, or CAPS, the Chicago Alternative Policing Strategy, which started in 1993, and as you know, Avi, because you were on board back then, we were a prototype district in the 24th District. And that was because of the strong community support that we had. The then superintendent, the mayor, saw that and made us a prototype district. And we really built on that. And if I have any prejudices at all, it's obviously for the 24th District, because I think we really did a tremendous job. And it's not me, it's not Bruce Rottner that did that. It's a combination of great leaders like Tom Byrne, who's now Commissioner of Streets and Sanitation.
Great guy.
Who was the commander here, Dave Boggs, who's retired.
Another great guy.
People like that who really just kept the dream alive and kept working with the community and pushing the community to be the best that they could be. And to this day, I would say the 24th District is among the best community policing districts in the city.
Now, we're very proud of, we have a lot of good people, there's no question, on the district. I've got to say, too, that the officers, I mean, dealing with, even the officers keep changing. You made me realize I thought it was 94, but I guess it was 93 when I first got involved.
Right.
And it's people don't realize how dedicated a lot of these officers are, and what kind of stuff that it's a very hard job, but you have to really care and want to do well in order to do it right.
Well, it's a very interesting profession, and a lot of people can have jobs, but we kind of think of this as an adventure, and it's something that really gets into your blood. And if you ask most police officers why they became police officers, 99% will say it was to help people.
Yeah.
Now, do their goals change as they progress in their careers? Yeah, maybe they wanted to be a detective at one time, but maybe becoming a sergeant is more important. Or maybe they wanted to go into narcotics, they decided to work with kids instead. Those goals change, but the basic goal of wanting to help people is always there. And you can take the gruffest, roughest police officer with 30 years on the job, and they're still out there with that basic need to help people, and that's what they do. Some police officers aren't as user-friendly as other police officers. Some you will not get that response that you're looking for, that kind of light-handed, pleasant, so on and so forth. But a lot of it too depends on the circumstances that they're in. When a police officer, for example, is trying to pull a person out of a car that was just in a terrible car wreck, and someone comes along and wants to ask them something, the police officer is not going to stop what they're doing and turn and politely answer their question. They're involved in something which might be life and death. The police officer's response is a little gruff to you. Well, so be it. I don't berate a police officer for that. In other cases, we have people that are well-intentioned and have information perhaps to share with the officer, but the timing may not be right. The officer's right in the middle of a situation. There's 5 people yelling at him or her about something. The police officer doesn't know what's going on. There's a safety factor there. Do one of these people have a gun? Maybe the call was a person with a gun or something like that. And so we have to stop. We have to make decisions within seconds that people have days and months and years to second guess us for.
Yeah, and that really bothers me too, because you got to go with your best instinct at the moment. And you're talking about a time when most people don't even think rationally, where you guys, at least through experience, you have better reflexes that way. And so many of these critics, if they were in that moment, at that second, might have done something 47,000 times worse.
Yeah, absolutely. You get called to domestic disturbance, for example, which is a very, very common call that we get. And domestics traditionally always meant a husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, but now, the law includes any family member, acquaintance, someone you live with, And that's probably one of the most dangerous calls that we get, because each one is different. The dynamics are always different. I can't tell you how many times, normally a female would call to have us remove the male from the situation. And as long as she hasn't been battered or hurt, we can do that. And then it turns around and we're the bad guys. The next thing I know, we're taking the guy out and she's jumping on us. She changed her mind suddenly. Well, that's anybody's prerogative. But each case is a little bit different. Traffic stops are extremely dangerous situations because you never know who's going to be inside that car. If you look probably at the number of police shootings throughout the United States, a large majority of them are done on traffic stops, and thank God we haven't had a lot in Chicago, but if you look at other states, especially a lot of southern states, where those guys, their beat, so to speak, maybe 150 square miles, they don't have people there to help them right away, and they're stopping people on the road, and they never know who they're stopping. So, it's not the big fights, and it's not those things you see on TV that are the dangerous thing. It's the much more subtle things that you never know, when something's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's scary, and people don't realize it. You think, just stopping somebody for a routine traffic stop, that could be the end of somebody's life.
Absolutely. I mean, if we flash back to October 16th, 1996, that was the day that Jim Mullen was shot in the 24th District. And he was shot by an older gentleman who was not what we call a traditional assailant. He wasn't some young kid. And no one would have ever suspected that this would have happened. As you know, Jim is a quadriplegic now and is just doing fantastic. He just started his own company selling his custom-made applesauce.
Yeah, I heard about that. That was cool.
And it is terrific applesauce, so look for it. It is great applesauce. Jim's a good friend of mine. His wife Athena and I work together.
Yeah, she was a neighborhood relation. She's a very nice lady.
She's a detective now, and the Mullins are doing just fine. But Jim never knew going to work that day. It would be the last day that he would be in the same physical condition. So there's always that risk element out there. We don't talk about it consciously. We train very hard to avoid those kind of situations. Superintendent Weiss is very big on training. Coming from the FBI culture where there was a lot of training done, he's brought that with him here to our department. But it's difficult to train a large organization all at the same time because we have to have officers on the street all the time. So again, budget cuts and things like that. But training is still one of our top priorities, and a well-trained officer is less likely to get hurt than one who isn't trained as well.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to bring up this subject, but I imagine there's statistics too for how many police unfortunately get hurt on the job and all that.
Yeah, there are, and quite a few do. We just had a lieutenant in the 24th district who was actually off duty. She was going home and she stopped at a Walgreens to pick something up, and the store clerk started yelling, and there was a woman running out who had stolen a number of things. And the lieutenant, off duty, all the lieutenant was bound to do was take her cell phone out and call 911. She didn't have to get involved, but she did get involved, and she wound up struggling with this woman on the ground. The troops came in, but the lieutenant hurt her shoulder very badly and may have to have surgery on it. Now, these things happen all the time. Most police officers don't want to admit that they're human and they get hurt. The other place they get hurt quite is in car accidents. We're very vulnerable because we're in the car probably 5 hours out of 8, and there's a lot of exposure out there.
Well, Mike Speck, as a matter of fact.
Mike Speck was a young police officer in the 24th District.
Great guy.
Mike's a terrific police officer. And
award-winning like crazy. He saves people from burning buildings. I mean, literally.
And was just driving down the street, one of the side streets over here, and an SUV who allegedly was running from someone who had a gun T-boned Mike, and Mike was off the job for about 8 months, very seriously injured. If it had not been for the fact that he was, number one, young, number two, in excellent physical condition, number three, wearing his seatbelt, number four, wearing his safety vest, we may be talking about Mike Speck in the past.
Yeah.
The good news is Mike is back to full duty, back to work, and as good as ever. So again, there's a great deal of exposure because we're out there so much.
That's scary. I know a little bit more about this one, not only because I know Mike, but actually the car skidded up in part on Sonny Hirsch's lawn.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Again, we thank God that Mike is okay. But it's not quite as, I shouldn't say as dangerous, but the exposure is slightly less here on the far north side, because of the environmental impact, with the streets and things like that. When you go into some of the south and west side districts, where number one, they have expressways, they have heavy industrial with a lot of open things, some of our officers wind up getting into pursuits with bad guys. And, we have a very strict pursuit policy. Our officers are all aware of it. Most pursuits, if they start to get longer than a minute or something, are terminated by supervisors.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because the number one concern for any supervisor is the safety of his officers. That's the number one pursuit. And there are a couple of young officers. They've got the adrenaline going. This bad guy did something. They want to catch him. But the supervisor has to make an instantaneous decision instantly. Is the threat to the officers greater than the need to catch this individual? And in most cases, that balancing act, as we call it, is determined by a supervisor. And most pursuits, when they start to exceed, over 50 miles an hour, are terminated. We'll catch up to that guy again someday. You know, the tiger doesn't change his stripes.
Yeah, people. Yeah, wow. I never thought about that.
Yeah, right. And again, you know, this is based on not only incidents in Chicago, but all over the country. And unfortunately, you've seen them where the police are chasing somebody and some poor pedestrian steps out on the street, or a carload family is hit by the car that's being chased, you know. And then the second guessing comes, should have we been chasing them, shouldn't we, you know. So that's why, you know, our policy is very strict on pursuing people.
Yeah, that's, boy, it's scary just thinking about that.
Yeah,
it really is.
It is, you know. And now all our cars, the majority of our cars have in-car cameras where we can actually film, you know, our stops and so on and so forth. And it's really for the protection of the officer. You know, a lot of people watch the reality show Cops and things like that, and they'll see, you know, the view from the front mirror of or the front windshield of the police car out into where the offender is, and they're talking to the guy and stuff like that. Well, that's what we have, and we have, you know, a microphone on to listen to the conversations between the person who stopped and our officers. And because there are people who will falsely accuse police officers of doing things, and a lot of times the tapes, the video will protect the officer.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. You know, the one reality show I do want to encourage people to do again is come to your local CAPS meeting. That is a good reality. It may not be televised.
Absolutely.
But, you know, then we can find out what's really real instead of, you know, those guys on shows like Cops, which thank God I don't watch, they probably have to film like 60 hours of stuff to get like a 1 hour show at best.
Yeah, right, right. They really do. But, you know, the thing about attending CAPS meetings and this, when we were rolling CAPS out back in 1992, actually, putting together the infrastructure for it, Charlie Ramsey, who later became Chief of Police in Washington, and I believe was Chief of Police.
Oh, great guy! I haven't thought about him in a while.
Right.
And he was a frequent visitor on the show in the old days. Terrific individual.
Charlie Ramsey was kind of the architect of community policing. He was a deputy chief at the time, and he was given the task of putting it together. And that was really in the 1990 when he was given that task. And I remember shortly before it was rolled out in the 24th district, he had a big community meeting at Warren Park. And I attended as a resident, and you know, he asked a very simple question. He said, "Do you know the name of the police officer who's patrolling around your house, protecting your family?" And I worked in the district, and I couldn't answer that. And he said, "Well, don't you think you should?" And that very simple, eloquent statement really kind of summarized the CAPS philosophy. When you go to CAPS meetings, you meet with the police officers who are actually out there delivering the services to your block, to your neighborhood. These are the police officers who are there every night, every day, and these are people you should really get to know. And you'll find out they're not that much different than you. I mean, you know, besides the fact we carry a gun and so on and so forth, I mean, you know, police officers are like anyone else. I mean, we have mortgages, we have families, we have, you know, have to work 2 jobs. We do a lot of things that you know, everybody else here does. And, you know, Avi, I really will tell you that you know, and our police officers know this too. 80% of people like the police. I mean, you know, hear some old grumpy policemen sometimes say, you know, oh, they're all against us and this and that. You really don't hear that anymore, you know.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, well, you know, the good news is 80% of people, because most people don't really think about the police when you think about it. I mean, you know, you're involved in community policing very heavily, so you have a little more knowledge of what we do than the average guy. But the guy out there selling shoes or selling insurance, or the woman who's a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, doesn't really think about the police unless they get a ticket or they're a victim of a crime, you know.
Yeah.
But they certainly don't dislike the police. They know that we're kind of that thin blue line between us and, you know, between them and the bad guys. Then there's 10% of people that, you know, will love us no matter what we do. They'll always love us. They're kind of the fanatic. And God bless them, you know. And then there's 10% who really aren't happy with us. You know, maybe they got a parking ticket, you know, or maybe they were arrested for something they felt wrong about, you know. But the good news is, out of that 10%, there's probably only 1/10 of that 1% who would actually try and hurt us, only because we're policemen, you know. So we're in a pretty good situation in that sense, you know. And our younger police officers, again, who are much better educated than, coppers that came on the job, in the 40s and 50s when there was no educational requirement, are much more tolerant today, and they understand these things. They understand the community, for the most part, is behind us, and likes us, and that's the good news,
No, it's definitely made a difference. Community policing in general is, because I remember how antagonistic things used to be. And when I was a reporter in the early 70s, and this is not that long after the Democratic Convention of 68, even though I was still in high school when that was going on, there was such a mistrust between policemen, the community, not to mention the press. When I would put my Chicago police press pass in my window, it was a guarantee to get a ticket.
Yeah, well, times have changed. Times have changed significantly.
Yeah, now it's like there's a friendliness, there's a courtesy, and you know what? I saw this happening slowly over the course of time. I remember you used to tell a story about some of these guys who are old and gruff and all the rest of it, and a little bit of contact and a little bit of technology, and all of a sudden they're getting into it.
Well, not only are they getting into it, and I've told that story before, and I'm not going to repeat it, but it's a lot of our older officers that are really our best officers. They're mentors to our younger officers. You have guys with 30, 35 years that are still out there kicking doors in, who really enjoy what they do. And community policing has kind of given them a chance to really find an audience, if you will, in a sense. I've gone to a lot of CAPS meetings, and you'll see officers, again, with 30, 35 years on the job, who just love to get up there and talk because no one ever asked them before, And it really makes me, as a 38-year veteran and as a supervisor, feel good to see that these guys, are proud of what they've done. And this is encouraging for the younger officers who see that and look at them as role models.
There's a lot of it. Speaking of older officers, although not all these guys are older, I would be remiss if I didn't say hi, and I'll do this in order of rank. Lieutenant Don Holman, Sergeant Dave Welbo, Officer Steve Cohn, and the recently retired Hank Jacob, all fantastic people.
My A-team, absolutely good people.
For sure. And people don't begin to appreciate, what good hearts so many of these people have and what the things. But you know what? I don't have to sauce up that way. Come to the CAPS meetings. You'll get to find out for yourself. It really makes a difference.
Absolutely.
I very much like what you said about do you know the names of your beat officers? Because the truth is, we just had a change in the second shift, which is where they go to the CAPS meetings.
Right.
And I just realized, I don't know who these guys are.
Yeah. Well, you'll get to know who they are. And again, I think it's important for everybody to get to know the police officers and who they are. I know not everybody can come to CAPS meetings. People are working 10, 12, 14 hours a day. They get home, they're tired. But we're only asking for an hour of your time, one day a month. And we think it's worth it. We really do.
No, absolutely. There's no question about it. And there's no way to turn that off, Marty. You probably, whatever. You should let it go to the machine. I'm sorry. That's Marty Levinson, who you're going to be seeing on the show in the next week. Just leave the phone go in the future. Okay. By the way, I do want to say hi to Samantha Nikias, too, who's the longest, she's the longest standing member of the 2412B team, which is the beat that I chair the meetings for. And of course, Sonny Hirsch, in his spare time, is chairman of the District Advisory Committee of 24, of the 24th District, and he runs the beats in 2413.
Correct.
So we want to, and I hope everything's okay, Sonny, and we'll find out. In the meantime, if people want to contact you or get in contact.
Sure, I'm over at Area 3 headquarters, which is over at Belmont and Western, 2452 West Belmont. And my number there is 312-744-4932. And
of course, we're talking about Deputy Chief of the 3rd District, Deputy Chief Bruce Rottner. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
First of all, my pleasure. Former commander of the 24th District, former community policing sergeant, not to mention at times a captain and a lieutenant and all these other good jobs.
Just a kid from the neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to remind you to check us out on the web at www.ntnm.org. Don't forget to go to Sonny Hirsch's website at caps24.org to find out when all the community policing meetings are. Thank you so much for being here in upcoming weeks. We'll have Liz Patel on, we'll have Bill Morton from the new chamber, we'll have Marty Levinson, we'll have Alderman Joe Moore, and we'll have Michael Strom. Thank you so much, Deputy Chief Rottner.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.